Now what will it be? Death or exile?
Welcome to the Film Exiles podcast. I'm Chris and I'm here with my friend Lupe.
What's up?
And we are going to talk about a film called John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum.
Baba Yaga.
Right, so we saw this film today. We've had a bit of time to think about it. And I think we'll just go over the franchise and how do you feel it kind of fit into the franchise as a whole, and then we can move on to different elements of the film.
Okay, so starting off with generalities, I'm not the biggest fan of the John Wick franchise. So however you want to use that as a disclaimer to hold my opinion either valuable or invaluable is up to you.
Okay.
So I'm not the biggest fan. So will you take my word as, more seriously, since I'm not prone to forgive it where it isn't due forgiveness?
Yeah.
Or because I'm not a fan, maybe I don't get it. So it's up to you how you're going to take that. I didn't rewatch part 1 or part 2 in recency going into this. I know you did, which is a good idea, but I'm not that big of a fan. I just felt like I didn't really have the time to do that. But I do remember the first one I thought was good, not great. I thought good action, thin on story, pretty straightforward. That was it. The second one I did not like at all. I thought that had almost zero story. If you thought that one had a light story and a lot of action, 2 was just basically all action, no story. And to me, the action was repetitive. It was just body shot, headshot, takedown, headshot, takedown, body shot, headshot, rinse, recycle, repeat, that kind of thing. So for me, 2 just didn't do it for me, although I know a lot of people love him. So coming into 3, I'd heard a little bit that, there was a bit more going on. Obviously, I'd seen the cast list. It seems like things had expanded, and I was hoping that there will be more story. There will be an expansion of the lore. There were hints to that earlier. Yeah, I was excited about that. So that's where I am with the franchise going in.
Okay, so I did have a little chance to flick through part 2. I know part 1 pretty well. I really, really enjoyed part 1. I grew up with a lot of the late 80s, mid to late 80s, early 90s action films, and I absolutely loved all of them. So you get me a good, not VFX heavy driven action film. You've got me halfway there. So where you're likely to give the more nuanced opinion, I will give the fanboy opinion here.
All right, good balance.
I had similar issues that you had with part 2. I loved part 1. I didn't revisit it because I kind of knew it pretty well. I did have another flick through part 2 last night, and what you say about the story points is really interesting because I started to watch it really late. I said, okay, I'll just through the action scenes, I'll flick through, I'll fast forward through the action and just get the story so I'm up to date on what's going on in the franchise. And I think I saw about 5 scenes or 6 scenes that were dialogue and a bit of story drama, and whatever. So we're talking about a near 2-hour film that was in the vast majority action. And I'll agree with you that my feeling watching number 2 was not as number one got me. It was exactly what I needed at that point, because we haven't really had great original action for a long time. So that gun fu that we got in part one was just perfect for me. I ate that up. Number two was a letdown, and no matter what you say about action, it was decent action, but when you have so much of it, it becomes repetitive.
Yeah.
And this is what I loved specifically about part three. My expectations going into part three was to see more story, more development of the world, a bit more world building to kind of understand what goes on beyond this hotel system of assassins. And another expectation I had was, more story. So a better plot for the character to go through, because we know Keanu Reeves can do badass action. So I just wanted him to exist in that character to exist in a story which deserves him. And personally speaking, my expectations were met. I really, really loved this film.
Okay.
So those are my general thoughts. We can go through the different elements and we can talk about. Is there any particular one you'd like to start with?
All right. Well, let's start with. I think one of the striking things about the film is the cinematography, which works in conjunction with like production design and costume design. Those elements are absolutely fantastic, absolutely top notch. It's not overdone, as you said, not CGI heavy. You don't have like massive explosions or anything to elaborate. It's all subtle, very sophisticated.
Lighting in that film was beautiful.
Lighting is beautiful. The sets are well designed. The suits are well tailored.
Yes.
You can see like a lot of the women are heavily tattooed.
Yep.
But there's this particular aesthetic that just, that everyone in their costume, every set, everything just works cohesively to build this amazing world that you sink into, and you just really want to be in the world with the characters and the history and know what is around the corner and how expansive it is.
You mentioned the tattoos and the thing. So some of the tattoos were incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
And when you see like the old ladies on the switchboards, and like we're talking about 70-year-old ladies, they're all tatted up, like, and then you've got the subtle ones of Halle Berry on the face, on the neck. Yeah. It's just the attention to detail, and that's one of the things I'll say about every aspect of this film, whether it was set design, lighting, costume design, every little bit. There was the action. They paid so much attention to the details, and that's why I appreciate so much that when you can see that a filmmaker, and I'll credit here Chad Stahelski, that man has got real attention to detail. So if we talk about the cinematography, if we talk about Dan Lauston, the way he framed his shots, like, okay, so there's a difference between cinematography and photography, and so cinematography is the language of telling the story, but the photography in this film was stunning as well. So the photography being the still shots that just look gorgeous. So the film opens with an overhead of New York at night with all the lights, the neon lights. It like, I've not seen many films shoot New York overhead like that. It's usually black and white, dark and light, some red, some blues, but the mix of colours in that shot, and it repeats at the end of the film as well.
Yeah,
is just gorgeous. There's a shot in the Sahara. Not the Sahara, in
the Moroccan desert.
The Moroccan
North
desert.
Africa.
Yeah, the North African desert, where John Wick is just a dude in a fully tailored suit, standing on the top of a sand dune at dawn.
And
At dusk, sorry.
Yeah, there's some nighttime shots of the desert as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And I can't even tell if those shots were on a green screen or if they were on site. The film looks gorgeous, and it's dark. It's dark, and it looks beautiful.
Yeah. I was trying to place the sort of genre. It felt kind of like, I was like, aesthetically had a neo-noir.
Yes,
to it.
I was thinking that during the film.
It had a very neo-noir look to it, but obviously in terms of the content, I wasn't very sure if I would place it.
Futuristic Tokyo was what I was thinking.
Yeah. It definitely had that neo-noir look to it. I think it was very well done. Acting, all around, the acting performance is very good. Keanu Reeves is a very specific actor. You can claim that he doesn't have a lot of range, but the thing about him is this: he's one of those actors where when you get him in the roles he's well suited for, he shines like diamonds, and this is a role that he's specifically suited for. A man of few words, but a lot of intensity, and a lot of expression through physicality and face acting and that kind of thing.
His face acting
was on point. So he was very good, and the supporting cast, they all did a good job. Halle Berry was really good in this. Really, really good. And recently, I cannot say that about a lot of Halle Berry's efforts. I don't want to be harsh because it's Halle Berry and she's the mother of my children.
Yeah, all right.
So I don't want to be too harsh, but no, she killed it in this one.
Yeah.
And we discussed this earlier. This is not a spoiler, but there's a little bit of world traveling. There's not a little bit. There's infinitely more. It's not like they go to many locations, but the fact that they go to
they leave New York.
They leave New York is immediately infinitely more traveling.
To be fair to number 2, they did go to Italy,
but it looked exactly like,
you didn't see much of it. But
it looked exactly like New York, but with older.
It was just in a sewer.
Their travels to a location I will not disclose.
I've already did.
Yeah, I guess. So they did travel to Morocco.
Yeah.
They actually traveled not just to Morocco. They traveled to 2 places. And I won't spoil the first place, but they traveled to 2 places, but a lot of stuff happened in Morocco. And aesthetically, it's so different from the concrete jungle with the neon lights and the glass buildings of New York.
A much needed contrast.
Yes, a much needed contrast. Was more earthy, more ethnic, more tribal, if you will, in terms of just being more naturalistic. You had the desert, the browns of the desert, the traditional attire. Even Halle Berry was wearing like traditional, Arabian, attire. Which was very, very good to see. It was a good breakup. Obviously, if you've seen the trailers, you can see that there are dogs involved. And let's just say the dogs. Yeah. The dogs brought it. Yeah. The dogs did not disappoint at all.
There is one action scene, and for me, it's the best scene of the franchise thus far. Best action scene of the franchise thus far. And it's a combination of John Wick with Halle Berry's character and her
2 dogs.
And her 2 dogs.
Like the combinations, and the thing is that you don't really think, like, it takes a very creative mind to do all these combos. Let's put it that way, because they are combos, and they make so much sense. And one thing I loved about the way the dogs worked is that you could feel their power. They were very explosive in their movements, and the dogs were taking down opponents and putting opponents in compromising situations in which you could see these very interesting combos with, with Halle Berry. And it was obviously it's fantasy stuff. Is not going to happen in real life. But
those dogs look trained to attack.
Yeah, no, those dogs
look.
Those takedowns were, and it's a hilarious thing which you see that the dogs were wearing bulletproof vests.
Yes,
that was funny to me.
Yeah,
but it plays into the story.
And there was one bit I think I screamed oh shit in the theater where there's one shot. There's one little piece of action involving Halle Berry and the dog. And I was like, shit. And like audibly, there was a lot of
interesting things.
There was a lot of interesting creative maneuvers, let's say.
I'd say I'll say that whole sequence, and also, this is also in the trailers, there's a sequence on motorbikes with katanas.
Yes.
Those two were the best action sequences. And it's interesting to say those two are the best because this one has a lot more diverse action. Yeah. So the first John Wick was Gun Fu. The second John Wick was Gun Fu on steroids.
Yeah, it was just gun.
Exactly. It was just a lot. Basically, like, I think they were bragging about how many kills. Like, we had so many more kills, like 70 something. But as I said, it got tedious after the first 20 something. It's just the same thing. But this one, what you get is diversity. So you never get tired of the kills. Yep. Never. Because you're always seeing something new. They had Kung Fu, hand-to-hand combat. They had, as we said, the stuff with the dogs. They had Gun Fu. They had the bikes with the katanas. They had sword fighting. They had daggers.
Knives.
Throwing
knives. Throwing.
Exactly. So you had a lot of variety.
Books.
You never got tired of the action, and I think that's something.
Some of the weapons used in this film, we're talking about books, axes, knives,
different things,
just anything you can
glass, like shards of glass, just anything. Also, as you said, and I'll back you up on it, the story was a lot better. In this one,
I have a bit of a problem. It's not a problem. It's not perfect. I think they tried to. So without spoiling it, the story of John Wick 3 picks up from the end of John Wick 2, where he shoots the brother of. So there was a pair of siblings from the higher table, I believe, and the one sibling, the man, sends John Wick to assassinate his sister so that he could take the place at the table. So John Wick goes to Rome, he kills the sister, but there's kind of crosses and double crosses, and he comes back and in the end, he kills the brother, but he kills him in the Continental, which is against the rules, right?
The rules, yeah. So it becomes excommunicado.
So it becomes excommunicado. And there's like a $14 million bounty on his head. They give him 1 hour to escape. So we pick up right off from the end of John Wick 2. So he's on the run, and the clock's ticking, and from there he goes on his crusade to kind of survive, really, and kind of get his life back on track. So he's not trying to get this excommunicado death sentence off him, let's say. The resolution to that was fine on paper. I think they addressed everything. I would have liked a little more tension in the final resolution. But it didn't spoil it or didn't ruin the third act. The third act's solid. But I would have liked a bit more without spoiling it, how can I say? I would have liked a bit more of a dilemma. I wanted John Wick to feel a bit more of a dilemma.
I'll just put it this way. I thought the story was interesting and where it went was interesting, but I think what the story served to do was build the world more. That was interesting. But in terms of the character of John Wick, I don't think his character progressed in any way, to be sincere. If you look at it technically, his character arc is quite stationary.
Yeah. He
kind of goes round in a circle to come back to the exact same point.
That's the kind of thing that's what I wanted to kind of get to, is that when the moment of truth comes for him to make a decision, it was too easy for him. So he didn't really have any choice to make, because it's John Wick, the John Wick we've known for 2 films. So it was not really is he going to do this or is he going to do that? We know he's John Wick. He's going to do this. That's how I felt about it. And I would have liked a little bit more tension.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, people watch it. I don't want to spoil anything, but if you... So, as I said, there are 2 elements in this film. One is in terms of the story. One is the world building. How does the story progress the world? And I think they nailed it. It does an excellent job. That 10 out of 10, to be quite honest. You get some hints, some more hints of things in his backstory. People who owe him favors, people he owes favors, that kind of thing. Yeah. So you get to hear a little bit more of his background. The way Halle Berry comes into it, there is a lot there that's very interesting. You get to meet some of the shadowy figures that we've only heard hints about. So the obviously, and also we talked about the world traveling, like went to more locations. So for the story in terms of world building, they nailed it. Now, for his personal story, his development as a character, where he goes, how a character journeys from point A to point B. Yeah. I feel like there was no progress. It was just running. It was like he was running a treadmill.
Yeah, I agree.
Just running in the same spot. I agree. So if you're supposed to even that, I guess I'd say something like one part is 10 out of 10, one part is a 0. It's being extreme, but about a 5 mid or 6 or whatever.
He didn't progress as a character, but I don't know if did we really need that?
But you see, that's the thing. We didn't necessarily need it, but and that's where I, as a non-fan, come in.
That's right.
You know, to the point where, like, if we had that, it could have elevated it a bit more. Yes, is it a good film? Yes, I enjoyed it. I liked it, but I'm saying, like, there's room for improvement. Yeah, that's basically
absolutely. So one of the things that I made a note of, and I didn't mention it, was so when we were talking about attention to detail before, there was in the fighting scenes, in the gun fu battles especially, you have the bad guys in all the get up in the suits that are bulletproof and the helmets which are bulletproof, and he's using guns and he's shooting them, right? And the bullets don't penetrate any of the body armor, right? So he is picking a small little gap in the neck to shoot them there.
Going up, getting up close and shooting their arm. So he's pulling open their visor to
pulling their visor up, shooting it, and then putting the visor back down again.
Because it's polite.
It's polite, you know. You can't leave him with a visor up, you know. It's just the in the kung fu battles. Towards the end of the film is very kung fu, guns not to be found. Loads and loads of flavor from those 70s and 80s kung fu films. If you've ever if people have seen Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2, that's a beautiful pastiche, kind of a film that honors all of those old kung fu films, and this had a lot of what Kill Bill had in my eyes. So the quirky as hell comedy. I know there's a bit that you didn't particularly like, a bit Marvel-esque.
Marvel type terrible comedy, but
those films had this quirky comedy, and it's not in the whole film. It's just in a particular area where there's a particular gang. I think they were Japanese. There was a Japanese gang, and
the way they interacted
with John Wick, the way they interacted with each other.
Apart from that Marvel humor bit,
apart from that one shot,
was quite natural.
It was so reminiscent of some of the stuff that you'll see in all of those old kung fu films. Other attention to detail is like, so there's interaction with the Russian mob, or is it Belarusian? Belarusian mob, and
very particular.
And there's like you're in the ballet, and there's a particular scene where there's a ballet dancer who's training, and you can see the bruises on her calves, the nails coming off of their feet. Every little bit of detail, true to reality.
And something about that is that I saw that as a sort of visual story of the grace and brutality of
John Wick. Wow, yeah.
So that was something
that's cinematography. That is cinematography.
That's something that I noted. Like the ballet was sort of a metaphor for this sort of gracefully brutal, and also the way it takes a toll on the person who's performing the act as well. So true. I thought that was a very, 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 very apt thing to include.
That's such a great allegory that the filmmakers have found there, and it's in looking back now. You mentioning it's definitely intentional,
and also
there's no accident about it.
The ballerinas were tatted up.
Yes,
that was something that I also noticed.
On the back.
Yes, all of them were tatted up. Which is because if you know anything about ballet, that is not
acceptable.
That's unacceptable. It's a very, very uptight, classical, pristine. Like it's when you talk about like ballerinas, you never have ballerinas who have like scars or
ears pierced.
It's so that was also something that kind of tied into, as I said.
No, my admiration for the filmmakers, Chad Stahelski, the director. I think he's done a marvelous job, and you can just tell he really, really cared about this film, and that's all you want, really. You want just some honesty. You want some sincerity. And he did a wonderful job in my eyes, and I love this film. I love it.
I think it's good. I don't think it's great. That's where I land on it, and the only reason why I think so is just because, as I said, the story elements that I feel didn't live up to what it could be. And as I described to you earlier, I see it as a better, more polished Fast and Furious, but with guns. So Fast and Furious with like guns or kung fu, whatever you want to say. But Fast and Furious with guns, basically. That's where I see. But it's better. It's better because Fast and Furious is like over the top. You have the cheesy meathead dialogue.
I know what you're trying to say. I know what you're saying. I'll differ on that. Where I'll take issue with that, not take issue, but disagree with that is I don't believe that the Fast and Furious franchise, especially in the latter films, take themselves seriously.
Yes, so in terms of like sincerity,
it's not they're not sincere films.
Not even like I mean, you can see like what James Wan did, and even what James Wan did with Aquaman, and like there's a lack of sincerity there. They don't take it seriously. Like to them, it's just it's almost like it's a joke.
That's the thing. There's a difference between treating a film as a joke and having jokes in a film. So John Wick has humorous moments in. There's one which is Marvel-esque, but
isn't the best.
Yeah, take that out, and it all of the comedy beyond that, all of the jokes or the comedic moments, the levity feels so natural, and it's not jarring in any way. And even that Marvel-esque moment is, you can make an excuse for it if you want to by hearkening back to the old kung fu film style comedy, but that's a bit of a stretch. But yeah, the film takes itself seriously, and it's one of my favorite action films of the past years. I would rank them now. I would still say the feeling I got after John Wick 1 was more jubilant because it was something so different, something so fresh. But I do think this might be a better film slightly than John Wick 1. Certainly from a cinematographic perspective, and from a story perspective, it was better. In fact, no, I think all around it's probably the best of the franchise in my opinion. It doesn't have the shock value of number one because we kind of got that shock value already. But as a film,
agree. I think it's
the best one.
So if I was to give numbers, I'd say something like this one is about an 8. The first one is maybe a 7 point. Let's say like a 7.75, like very close.
Very
to 8.
Close, yeah.
And then 2 for me is about a 5 or a 6.
5 or a 6.
Believe it.
Yeah. So your distance between your first 2 ranked films is close,
so
and then
close.
There's a bigger gap between.
Difference. Yes, and that's the bigger gap.
My gap between. I'm similar. I would rank number 3 is the best. Very, very, very close behind. I would put number 1. Again, a bit of a distance, number 2, but I didn't dislike 2 as much as you did, although I certainly understand your gripes with it, and I have a lot of those gripes as well. So yeah, overall, my expectations were surpassed, and I highly recommend everyone to go and watch this film.
Like, I definitely recommend anyone to see it. Like,
there was a lot of I know you wanted to say this before. There was a lot of Matrix references and things like that.
Because the director was a stunt guy on the Matrix. Yeah. So there were a bunch of cameos. Obviously, we know that Lawrence Fishburne is in there. There were a bunch of quotes from the Matrix. Not a bunch, but there was like 1 or 2 noticeable ones, and there were cameos from actors who were in the Matrix. Very interesting to see that circle of life thing going on.
And the director being an ex-stunt guy
in Matrix,
he knew how to get that action on point.
Yeah. Like, that's one thing about the action, without making this like too long. The action was very well shot. You didn't have a lot of cut together like nonsense that you can't see the action. You see people in frame fighting.
Yeah.
And that's something that people who come from that tree, so to speak, that director's tree. Zack Snyder is someone who is also a descendant of like the Matrix. Like, you know, when he made 300, he said he wanted to make, you know, Matrix for
comic book fans, Frank Miller.
For exactly. He wanted to make Matrix for like Greco-Roman, you know, stories. Anyway, but yes, the action and the whole Matrix thing, you know. So anyway, good film. Good film.
So I think we'll wrap it up there.
Yes, this has been a long one.
It's been a long one, longer than we thought it would be, but it was, for me at least, it was I could speak about this film all day, so it's worth talking about. So I've been Chris. You can find me on Twitter, Vero, at Vinaldo7, and Lupe.
You can find me on Twitter at Live Love Lupe.
Peace.